and I picked that boot up, chucked it square at her forehead, grabbed the dog, ran down the hall, slammed my door, and waited, rather impatiently, for someone to care. Hey guys, how's it going? First of all, I wanted to say a big thank you to you guys for all of the love these past few weeks here on YouTube. Our little community is becoming not so little anymore. It's almost doubled again in the past month, which is just so exciting. Like, wow. So yeah, thank you all so much for all of the love and support. I really love getting to chat with you guys every week
and share the joy of art with you.
Also, a special thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for helping keep this channel thriving and for contributing toward a really exciting top secret thing I'm working on right now. So with all that said, let's get into it. So as you may have already guessed, this is the 5th and final, as of right now at least, painting of my Tomte Town series. I almost never show my sketching process in videos. I guess I just get too freaked out when people watch me come up with a sketch, but I really wanted to give it a shot and give you some insight into how I explore an idea through sketching. I actually already had a rough sketch of the Milliner from my previous sketchbook, so I was kind of using that for reference. I basically ended up drawing the exact same thing 3 different times and ended up liking the initial messy sketch the best. In fact, when I took my sketches into Krita to finalize the line art, I ended up just ripping the character straight from that initial sketch because I really liked her pose. The ones you're seeing me sketch in this video turned out a little bit too stiff, and they also looked a little unbalanced. Oftentimes, if I'm redrawing the same idea to refine it, I end up really liking that first messy sketch the best. There's something about that first sketch that seems to always capture the most magic of an idea. Anywho, one of the things I like to do while I'm sketching is write down different ideas that I can incorporate into the piece. For this one, I knew I wanted to have lots of different patterns on the fabrics, and I also wanted the character to have quirky socks, so I made sure to write those ideas down so I wouldn't forget them. 9 times out of 10, if I don't write something down, it will be forgotten within the hour. After I finalized the sketch digitally, which will be available as a coloring page to the $2 patrons this month on Patreon, I transferred it to my watercolor paper and quickly laid down an underpainting. This is the exact same underpainting process I go through for every illustration, so I won't bore you again with the details. I had an idea to go with lots of warm tones for this one, like golds and oranges, but as I was doing a few quick color comps, I began to explore a different idea, a more chaotic idea. I added a few pops of blue to one of the comps, and then a few pops of green, and pink, and purple, and red, and I really liked it. But throughout many of the art classes I've taken, a limited color palette was always very heavily recommended. There's a kind of stereotype that you can't use every color in an illustration and still make a harmonious image. In literally every other area of life, I'm very stubborn. I hear the word can't, and a fire ignites in me that will not be quenched until I prove it wrong. Rarely do I turn that can't into a can, but that does not stop me. However, in art, I am a rule follower. But as I've slowly begun to learn over the years, there are generally no hard and fast rules in art. Yes, there are things that generally look good and generally don't, but there aren't any true rules to it. That's kind of the point. You can make whatever you want to make. But even so, I bought into that
limited palettes only
idea and shied away from that colorful comp that I liked. It became a kind of forbidden fruit. Anyways, even once I'd started the painting, I still tried to hold on to that entirely warm palette idea because that little art demon in the back of my brain was saying,
Rule number 875. Thou shalt not use all the colors in your illustration, or thine art will sucketh.
So I stayed in my little box that I'd built for myself and did not branch out. Until about a third of the way through when I got a sudden burst of boldness. I talked earlier on this year about wanting to be a little bit bolder in my art, and the boldness bug really bit me during this, and I slapped some blue on one of the drawers. And then on one of the rolls of the fabric, and later on the flowers in the cabinet. And all of a sudden, I was having a lot of fun. I think it took the first few hours of painting to realize why I wanted to add so many colors in the first place. I was subconsciously investigating the painting and discovering that this little Milliner is very chaotic. Her sewing desk is full of wonky shaped drawers and covered with strewn around sewing supplies. No two patterns are alike on the fabrics, and her socks are crazy. She even has a half-wrapped Tomte hat sitting on the ground because she can't seem to stay on task. I relate to this little milliner so much. I had spent so long designing this space to convey chaos, and the only way to follow through with that in the colors was to create some chaos with my palette too. Using lots of different colors wasn't the forbidden fruit, it was the key to making this illustration really work. So from that point on, the piece was just really darn fun, and it was smooth sailing from then on out. I don't really have much else to say about the piece, other than I'm really happy with how it turned out, so I guess let's move on to what seems to be everybody's favorite part of these videos, Storytime with Allie. So when I was about 10 or 11, I had a major sewing phase. I don't know if it was watching a little bit too much Say Yes to the Dress or what, but I was obsessed with designing and sewing clothes. But not for me. In the several years that this phase lasted, I don't think I ever once sewed something for myself. Instead, I sewed for my dog, and she did not appreciate that. And neither, it turns out, did my family. I had this horrible habit when I was little of organizing events for my family and demanding compensation for my efforts. Now keep in mind, this money was never for me, it always went towards an ever-growing piggy bank that I had for the animal rescue we got Ella from. Amongst these little money-making schemes were carnivals, which were basically me setting up a laundry basket and grabbing a few bouncy balls to create a top-notch carnival game. A pet parade, which consisted of me and my dog walking down our hallway because my dad would not allow me to buy a bird for the event. And in this particular instance, I had organized a fashion show with my dog. Ella was always a key player in these events. She was very easy to measure, and every scrap of fabric I had could fit her because she's so small. So anyways, I had just come out with a stunning collection of haute couture. We had a top-of-the-line tutu, several dresses of varying styles that I can't recall. Apparently they weren't that memorable. But the signature piece for this collection was a pair of cheetah print fuzzy booties that I had painstakingly sewn for Ella. Now, if I'm remembering this correctly, the sole of the shoe was a piece of cardboard. They weren't the finest quality, but they looked pretty darn good if I do say so myself. So anyways, my room is at the very end of our hallway, and at the other end is the living room. My room became backstage for the event, and our hallway transformed into a glamorous runway. So I had dressed Ella in these little booties and probably some sort of gown that I had sewn. And if you've ever seen a dog wear socks or boots of any kind, you can imagine where this is going. So I open the door and Ella begins her dog walk down the runway. And my family absolutely loses it. She's trying to make her way down the hallway, paws flailing, and all of a sudden one of the booties flies off her paw and takes to the skies. Now this resulted in a roar of laughter from our audience. Everyone except me already thought this was very entertaining, but my sister was eating it up, mocking me at her finest. And I picked that boot up, chucked it square at her forehead, grabbed the dog, ran down the hall, slammed my door, and waited, rather impatiently, for someone to care. The giggles continued for a few minutes until I heard my mom whisper,
"Okay, come on, let's be nice."
They began to cheer our names, and of course, we can't leave the audience hanging, so we triumphantly walked back down the runway and took our bows. Why my family catered to my ego in this situation, I really don't know. I guess they felt kind of bad about laughing, and in hindsight, I'm sure it was probably pretty hilarious to see, but I was so devastated by that wardrobe malfunction. Needless to say, that was the end of my fashion career. So I've been mentioning throughout the last few videos that I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter for the Tomte Town series. I just wanted to pop in real quick and give you a little bit of an update on how that's going. I have been doing so much research into it, figuring out shipping fees, exploring potential stretch goal options, all that jazz. As of right now, the goal is looking very, very doable, so that's really exciting. One of the potential stretch goal rewards I've been looking into is a sticker sheet featuring some of the items throughout the series. So there might be a stand mixer sticker on there from the Cupcaker painting, a cup of cocoa from the Cocoa Bar painting, a globe from the Cartographer painting. You get the gist. So if we reached that stretch goal, everyone who backed the Kickstarter would also get a sticker sheet as an additional goodie. Anywho, I'm getting really excited about launching the Kickstarter, and I am well on my way to getting things finalized for it. So I'll be keeping you guys updated about it over the upcoming weeks. So that's it for today, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed watching the Little Milliner come to life, and if you haven't seen the other Tomte Town videos, be sure to check out the playlist up in the info card. Now that I'm done with this series, I'm going to be doing a few one-off illustrations over the next few weeks that I've been hoarding in my sketchbook. As I've been playing favorites with my gouache palette lately, a lot of my other art supplies have been collecting dust. So I think I might bring out some of those other mediums for these illustrations. Anywho, if you're interested in getting a coloring page of this Milliner piece, head on over to Patreon via the link in the description and subscribe to the $2 tier to get a new coloring page every month. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys!